Sometimes, late at night, when the house is finally quiet and the air feels a little heavier, I like to turn off every light and just sit in the dark for a while. No music, no phone, just the soft hum of whatever is still alive in the room. The fridge in the kitchen, maybe a car far away, the faint whisper of air moving through the vents. In that darkness, my eyes slowly adjust, but there isn't much to see. Just shapes, just shadows. And in that calm, I start to think about endings. Not dramatic endings, not explosions or disasters, but the kind of endings that arrive so slowly you can barely tell they're happening. The kind of endings that feel like a room cooling down after everyone has left. That's where my mind always drifts to entropy, even if I don't call it that at first. I just feel it, like a quiet slide towards something more spread out, more faded, more even. Entropy is a big word, but the feeling of it is familiar. It's the way a hot cup of tea left on the table goes cold. It's the way a neat room slowly becomes messy if you stop paying attention. It's the way a once bright memory starts to blur at the edges, losing sharpness, losing color. Things that were arranged, focused, full of energy, slowly falling apart and spreading out. If I close my eyes, I can still see my old childhood room. It smelled like dust and books, and a little bit like crayons, even when I was too old to use them. There was this one drawer where I tried to keep everything organized. Pencils, stickers, lost game pieces, random coins. I'd clean it obsessively, line everything up, feel proud of how perfect it looked. And then weeks later, I'd open it again, and it would be chaos. Pens tangled with cables, wrappers, old notes. I didn't mean to mess it up. I never sat there and thought, today I will turn order into chaos. It just happened because that's how things go when you're not constantly using your energy to keep them arranged. That quiet drift from order to disorder, that is entropy. Now, when physicists talk about entropy, they say things like, it's a measure of disorder or a measure of how spread out energy is. But I like to think of it more simply. Imagine you have a box, and in that box you put all the red marbles on one side and all the blue marbles on the other. Very neat, very separated. That's low entropy. There's a pattern. You had to do work to make it like that. Now you shake the box, not violently, just gently, over and over. After a while, the marbles mix, red and blue everywhere. No clear pattern. That's high entropy. Nobody would expect all the reds and all the blues to suddenly jump back into place without you doing anything. The natural way is mixing. The natural way is spreading out. And the strange thing, the thing that touches everything, is that this direction, from order to disorder, from hot to cold, from focus to spread out, seems to be the one big arrow of time the universe obeys. We don't see broken eggs reassemble themselves. We don't see smoke go back into the match. We don't see melted ice cubes leap back into perfect crystal shapes. Time, in some deep sense, is just the story of entropy increasing. Not because the universe hates order, but because there are just so many more ways for things to be messy than there are ways to be neat. Now, hold that tiny idea in your hand for a moment, like you're holding a small stone you picked up on a walk. Feel its weight. Entropy grows, disorder spreads, energy gets more evenly shared. That's simple. And then stretch that idea out, not just over your room or your life, but over the entire universe, over every star and every galaxy and every atom humming in the dark. What does it mean if over time, everything everywhere is slowly sliding towards a more mixed, more even, more nothing special state? When I was younger, I used to stare at the night sky and feel that everything up there must be permanent. The stars looked so still, so sharp, like tiny holes poked in a dark curtain. I would lie on my back in the cold grass, feeling the dampness seeping through my clothes, smelling the earth, a little metallic, a little sweet, and I'd think, these stars were here long before me. They'll be here long after. That felt comforting. Like the universe was a big, solid stage, and I was just some brief visitor walking across it. But later, When I learned that stars are not decorations, but burning, changing things, slowly eating their own fuel, I started to see something different. The night sky is not a steady painting. It's a slow-moving fire, and all fires eventually go out. Our sun, this star, and the star that makes the sky blue and the air warm and the leaves green, is just a giant ball of gas trying to balance itself. Gravity pulls everything inward. The heat from nuclear reactions in the core pushes outward. Those two things hold each other in check, like two people locked in a slow, endless dance. But the fuel that feeds that heat is not infinite. Hydrogen turns into helium deep inside, in reactions we will never see with our eyes, but that give us sunrise and noon and the softness of late afternoon light. One day, billions of years from now, the hydrogen in the core will thin out. The balance will break, the sun will swell, redden, change, and in the very far future, it will turn into something smaller, dimmer, a white dwarf slowly cooling like a coal left at the edge of a fire pit. That cooling is entropy too, heat flowing out, energy spreading, the difference between hot and cold fading. Right now the sun is hot, and space around it is cold, so things can happen. Heat can flow, planets can form, winds can blow. On Earth, that difference in energy drives everything we know, weather, life, the fact that you can fry an egg or charge your phone. But as stars die, as they use up what they have and settle into colder, quieter states, the sharp contrasts smooth out. The universe becomes more even, more lukewarm, more tired. Like a party that was once full of music and voices and flashing lights, slowly emptying out until there's just a faint echo and some cups on the floor. When people talk about the heat death of the universe, the phrase can be confusing. It sounds like everything burns up in fire, but it's almost the opposite. It's not a fiery death. It's a slow fading into uniformity. Heat death is what happens when there are no more big differences left. No hot spots and cold spots. No places where energy can flow in a meaningful way. Everything is the same temperature, the same low hum. No more work can be done. No more engines can run. No more stars can shine. Imagine a cup of coffee on a cold morning. You pour it, steam rises, the smell is rich and dark, and for a moment the cup is a little sun in your hands, hot against your skin. That difference between the hot coffee and the cooler air around it is what makes the steam, the scent, the comfort. You can feel the direction, from hot to cold, from cup to room. Leave the coffee alone on the table and walk away. Come back later. It's not hot anymore. It's not cold either. It's just room temperature, unremarkable. The steam is gone. The smell is faint. That's what the heat death of the universe is like, but on a scale so huge it bends the mind. Everything, everywhere, slowly cooling to the same nothing special temperature until nothing much happens anymore. On human timescales, we live in a wild, noisy, energetic universe. Stars being born in clouds of gas, galaxies colliding in slow, silent dances, black holes swallowing matter and light. It's dramatic, but it's also young. The universe, as far as we know, is about 13.8 billion years old. That sounds old to us, but in the shadow of its possible future, it's like the first breath of a baby. If the universe were a long, long book, we're still on the first pages, maybe even still in the prologue. Ahead, there are chapters where stars run out, galaxies dim, matter falls apart, and even black holes slowly fade away. Black holes are like the universe's great secrets, places where gravity is so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape once it crosses a certain line. For a long time, they seemed like final graves for energy, swallowing information and never giving it back. But then came this quiet, strange idea. Black holes might not be truly black. They might slowly leak a faint glow, a kind of whisper of radiation, and over unimaginable times they might evaporate. This idea is called Hawking radiation, and it means that even the darkest, most powerful traps in the universe are not eternal. Given enough time, and I mean ridiculous time, numbers so big they barely fit in our heads, black holes themselves fade like dying embers. Entropy wins there too. The energy locked inside them spreads out into the emptiness. It's weirdly poetic. The universe seems to love forming structure. From simple particles, it built atoms. From atoms, it made stars. In the hearts of stars, new elements formed, and when those stars exploded, they scattered those elements. Planets formed from that debris. On at least one of those planets, tiny chemical reactions woke up and became life. And life became aware. And that awareness started asking questions like, why are we here? And what does it all mean? And all along in the background, entropy was rising, steadily, patiently, like a slow tide that never turns back. I sometimes picture entropy as the universe's long exhale. At the beginning, or at least at what we call the beginning, the Big Bang, everything was in a strange kind of low entropy state. The energy was incredibly high, but it was also incredibly uniform in a way that's hard to picture. The early universe was hot, dense, almost featureless, like a bright fog. Over time, tiny imperfections in that fog grew. Gravity pulled matter into clumps. Those clumps became stars and galaxies. In a way, structure, planets, people, trees, cities, is what happens when the universe allows little pockets of order to form while the overall entropy still rises. You, sitting here listening, are one of those pockets. A temporary island of order in a sea that prefers disorder. Your body is made of atoms that were once inside stars. The food you eat is ordered energy, taken from sunlight or from something that fed on sunlight. Your brain burns that energy, uses it to create thoughts, memories, sensations. All of that beautiful inner chaos, your ideas, your feelings, your daydreams, is built on top of this deeper rule. Energy flows from high to low, from focused to spread out, and entropy goes up. There's something both terrifying and strangely comforting about that. Terrifying, because it suggests that every structure, every pattern, every story is temporary. Comforting, because it means we are part of the same process that shapes stars and galaxies. The way a candle flame flickers and then goes out, leaving a faint smell of smoke in the air, is not so different from the way stars burn and fade. Different scales, same direction. I remember once sitting by a campfire in the woods. It was late, and the sky above was ink black, with stars scattered like salt. The fire had burned down from bright yellow flames to orange coals. The wood had turned into glowing, fragile shapes, collapsing into ash. The air smelled like smoke and pine and a little bit like burnt sugar from the food we had roasted earlier. I poked a coal with a stick and it crumbled softly, its heat rushing into the cooler air. For a moment, I felt this wave of sadness. The fire we had built, so bright, so alive just an hour before, was dying. But then I realized nothing was really gone. The heat had moved into the air, into the night. The wood had turned into ash and gas. The energy had spread out, become less useful, less focused, but it hadn't vanished. It was just more hidden. That's entropy, too. Not destruction, just transformation and spreading. On cosmic scales, the same thing happens. Stars burn their fuel, shine for a while, then transform. Some explode and throw their guts into space. Some quietly collapse. Some puff off their outer layers and leave behind dense cores that slowly cool. Over many trillions of years, the bright, star-filled universe we know would become a darker place. New stars will form for a long time, but not forever. Eventually, the gas needed to make new stars will be used up or locked into compact remnants. The night sky in the far future will look different. Fewer stars, more darkness, more cold. If there are any eyes left to see it, they might look up and feel how we feel when we stare into an abandoned building. Traces of something that once was, but no longer is. Far beyond that, in ages we can barely name, even those remnants will change. White dwarfs will cool into black dwarfs, cold, dark cinders in the night. Neutron stars might sit like silent, heavy islands. Black holes will dominate for a very long time, but even they will eventually fade through that quiet evaporation. And after all of that, what remains is a thin, almost perfect fog of particles and radiation, spread nearly evenly across space. No stars, No planets, no life, no structures that we would recognize. Just a quiet, thin soup of almost nothing, almost nowhere, almost no difference between here and there. That is one possible future. The heat death. The maximum entropy state where everything has spread out so much that nothing interesting can really happen anymore. The cosmic coffee has cooled to room temperature. The party is over. The last songs have been played. The lights are off. It's natural to ask, is that really the end? Is that truly the death of everything? And also, how does it make us feel sitting here in this tiny, bright moment of the universe's story, knowing that so far ahead, the lights go out? For me, the first time I really let that idea sink in, it felt like a kind of grief. Not a sharp, personal grief, like losing someone you love, but a vast, distant grief, like standing on a hill and watching a city you've never visited slowly vanish in the fog. The universe is beautiful. The colors of nebulae, the spiral arms of galaxies, the shimmer of starlight on ocean waves, the quiet of snow under a full moon. To imagine all of that, every last bit of it, eventually dissolving into a thin, cold haze, is heavy. It tastes a little bit like metal on the tongue, like the air before a storm. It makes the heart sink. But after that first wave of sadness, something else appeared. A strange, gentle relief. If everything is temporary, stars, galaxies, even time as we know it, then our smallness is not a flaw. It's not a mistake. It's just how things are. The sunset doesn't fail because it only lasts a few minutes. A song isn't ruined because it ends. In a way, their endings give them shape. Knowing they will end makes us pay attention while they're here. Entropy gives the universe a direction, but it also gives it drama. If everything stayed the same forever, if nothing ever decayed or spread out, there would be no story, no change, no birth, no death, no evolution. The same pattern, frozen. Instead, we get this wild one-way river, flowing from low entropy to high, from simplicity to complexity, and then back to simplicity again. Along the way, for a brief stretch, there are galaxies and stars and planets and people staring up at the sky, trying to understand. Sometimes I imagine an alien civilization living far away, under a different star. Maybe they have more than two eyes. Maybe their senses are different. Maybe they can feel magnetic fields on their skin or taste radiation in the air. Maybe their sky is crowded with stars. Or maybe they live in a small galaxy high above a cosmic void. I picture them looking up and wondering the same things we wonder. Where did this all come from? Where is it all going? What happens at the end? And I imagine them, too, discovering entropy, realizing that the arrow points one way, and sitting together in their own dark rooms feeling the same mix of awe and sadness. We are all floating in the same river, even if we're in different boats. Of course, we don't know everything. Our theories are good, but they are still human attempts to grasp something beyond us. Maybe the universe expands forever, thinning out into that heat death. Maybe it does something else. Maybe dark energy, that mysterious thing causing the expansion of the universe to speed up, will change its behavior one day. Maybe space will tear apart. Maybe the universe will cycle, somehow reset, though that idea has its own puzzles. Right now, based on what we see, the way galaxies are flying away from each other, the way the cosmic background radiation looks, the way matter and energy are spread, the heat death seems likely, but likely is not certain. Still, even if the details change, the deep message of entropy remains. Nothing stays arranged forever without effort. Differences smooth out, energy spreads, structure is fleeting. On smaller scales, we feel that all the time. A tidy schedule decays into missed appointments and forgotten tasks. A strong relationship drifts if no one puts in the effort. A sharp memory blurs at the edges. Even our bodies, which are busy fighting entropy every second, repairing cells, resisting wear and tear, eventually give in. The order we hold inside, all the precise arrangements of molecules that keep us alive, requires constant energy. When that energy flow stops, entropy takes over and the structure breaks down. dust to dust, as the old phrase goes. It sounds poetic, but it's also just thermodynamics. And yet, in the middle of all that decay, we create. We cook meals, turning raw ingredients into flavors and warmth and shared moments. We build cities, stack bricks, wire circuits. We write stories, paint, dance. All of these little acts are local fights against entropy. We take energy from somewhere, from the sun, from food, from fuel, and we use it to carve out tiny pockets of order, of beauty, of meaning. The universe allows this, even encourages it for a time. Entropy can increase overall while still giving rise to small zones of decreasing entropy, as long as those zones are balanced by greater increases elsewhere. A refrigerator can keep its inside cold while heating up the room around it. Life can grow more ordered inside while radiating heat out. There's a strange grace in that. We bloom and burn at the same time. I think about this when I watch someone light a candle. There is a small rasping sound as the match strikes, a sudden flare of light and the sharp chemical smell of sulfur. Then the wick catches and the flame steadies, wobbling a little in the air. That tiny flame is eating fuel, turning wax and oxygen into heat, light gases. Entropy is rising. But in the process, we get this gentle golden circle of light, this feeling of calm, of focus. We use it to read, to pray, to think, to sit quietly with someone we love. The heat spreads, the order decreases overall. But for a moment, inside that circle, something very delicate is happening. That's what our existence feels like to me. A small, bright, fragile flame in a huge, dark, cooling room. Knowing that everything will end doesn't stop us from lighting candles. In fact, maybe it's the reason we do. Sometimes people ask, if the universe is going to end in such a quiet, empty way, does anything we do matter? If eventually there are no stars, no planets, no memories, is there any point in building, loving, learning? It's a haunting question. It echoes in late-night thoughts and in the silence between breaths. My answer, though, is simple. Meaning doesn't have to last forever to be real. A song that makes you cry doesn't become meaningless when it stops. A meal that warms you doesn't fail because you'll be hungry again tomorrow. A life filled with small kindnesses isn't erased just because it doesn't echo for eternity. On cosmic scales, we are brief. On human scales, we are entire worlds. You are someone's universe. Your thoughts, your voice, your presence change the people around you. You are a pattern in matter that has never existed before and will never exist again in exactly the same way. Entropy will eventually dissolve that pattern, yes. But while it's here, it is astonishing. You are made of atoms that have been through stars, collisions, the cooling of the early universe. For billions of years, those atoms wandered, and now for a little while, they are you. You breathe. You think about entropy and the death of everything. You listen to the quiet sounds in your room and the faint hum of your own body. That's not nothing. That's a miracle of arrangement. I like to think the universe wanted to know itself, and we are one way it's doing that. Not by design, not on purpose, but as a side effect of its own laws, its own unfolding. In the long run, entropy wins. But on the way there, consciousness appears and looks around and says, "Wow!" The future heat death, if it comes, will feel nothing. It will not miss us. It will not mourn stars or galaxies or songs. It will just be a calm, empty field of near uniform energy. No eyes, no ears, no memories. In that far horizon, there is a kind of pure peace, but also a silence too deep for us to fully grasp. We, on the other hand, are noisy. We laugh, we argue, we sing in the shower. We tell stories about the end of the universe while eating snacks at midnight. We worry about our jobs, our families, our place in the world. We cry over movies and random songs on the radio. All of that is heat, motion, complexity. All of that is the universe being temporarily less simple than it could be. If you listen closely right now, maybe you can hear the softest sounds around you. A fan turning. Someone walking in another room. A car outside. Or maybe it's truly quiet, So quiet you can hear your own breathing, the small movements of your body against the chair or the bed. Feel the temperature of the air on your skin. Maybe it's cool, maybe it's warm. That difference between your body and the room is energy too, gently balancing, gently flowing. You are not separate from entropy. You are swimming in it. You are part of the same story that will one day end, not with a bang, but with a long, slow sigh. And yet, here you are, right now, aware of it. That awareness is a tiny light in the dark. It doesn't stop the darkness from eventually filling everything, but it does something else. It makes this moment matter. Not to the universe, maybe, but to you, to the people you touch, to the small web of lives that intersect with yours. When I think of the death of everything, of that final, thin, cold state, I don't picture it as a horror anymore. I picture it like the last ember in a fire pit, cooling under a sky that no one is left to see. There's a kind of dignity in it, a kind of completion, a story that has reached its last page. But we are not on that page. We are somewhere in the wild middle chapters where stars are still burning and galaxies are still swirling and life is still asking questions. So what do we do, knowing all this? Maybe nothing different. Maybe everything different. Maybe we just keep living, but with a little more tenderness. We hold our loved ones a bit closer, knowing their time is finite. We look at the sky with a bit more wonder, knowing those stars are burning their lives away to let us see. We forgive ourselves a little for being small and temporary, because everything is. We find meaning not in forever, but in now, in the taste of our coffee, in the warmth of a hand in ours, in the way sunlight hits a wall in late afternoon and turns it gold. Entropy and the death of everything is not a threat. It's a backdrop. It's the frame around the painting, the silence that makes the music stand out. Without an end, there is no shape. Without decay, there is no change. Without time flowing one way, we wouldn't grow or learn or remember. The same law that one day will leave the universe dark is the law that lets stars shine and lets us exist between them. So tonight, when you turn off the lights and the room goes dark, feel the air on your face. Notice the faint smells of your pillow, your clothes, the outside world drifting in through some tiny crack. Listen to the quiet. Somewhere far beyond your walls, a star is being born. Somewhere else, another is dying in a burst of light. In between those two on a small planet, you are here, thinking about the fate of all things, carried along on the slow river of entropy. The universe will end one day, in cold or in silence, or in ways we don't yet understand. But you are here now, a brief, bright pattern in the darkness. And maybe that is enough. Maybe that is the point. That in a universe destined for stillness, there was a moment when matter could look at itself, feel its own existence, and whisper into the vastness, "I was here."